Hey people, special thanks to Lucky Truth. The skunk is in the box. I didn't open the box till after most of this movie was made, but I'll let you know when. I had made a mistake on that last movie. I want to clear it up. I said that this was describing the picture in Dutch, and I said this was describing the picture in Russian. But this is actually another interpretation. There's 8 different languages here: the Russian, Latin, French, Spanish, Italian, Dutch, or Norwegian. I found that if you grab this top that's in the Dutch and put it in the translator, I found that sometimes it translates better if you put this in Norwegian. And you might have to replace a couple letters. They have a hard time identifying the SNs or the P's and the T's. Replace that with the P as it was. But sometimes you won't get a good translation. But if you go to the Norwegian, it'll give you another translation, sometimes better. So that tells me that the Dutch and Norwegian was once one language, and it kind of spread them apart. So if you check them all in both languages, it'd give you a better idea. And this page, archives, they just wouldn't pick up this Russian. But if you come to this front page and grab this and put it in your Google search and come over here to more and go to books, it'll take you to Google Books, and you can find this at Google Books. So if you find something that you're not sure about the translation, or if you just want to see how they want to put this into Russian, Google had did a better job of transcribing this Russian, and it won't pick it up here. But if you find a word and put it in your search over here, it'll bring you down here to a list of where it come up, and you can click on one of these, and on the side it'll show you a mark of where they all came up. But this is the elephant and the lamb. And so if you want to pick this Russian up, you can't get it here. But if you run your cursor over here, it'll pull it up. You can get it here. And you can put that in your translator and go to Russian. And you can see the Russian interpretation for that. The humble are served by the nil. So that gives us a better idea of what nil means. You know, the greatest yield to the humble is the way they see this in English. And so that the nil is meaning the greatest yield. And nil, coming from the Latin, is nothing, makes me question that. Because this omega in the Greek alphabet sure looks like the back end of an elephant. The great circle. Several years ago, maybe about 8-9 years ago, I was searching artifacts. I run into the Father Crespi collection, and at that time there was elephants that was just carved out elephants with the IHS on them, and that totally doesn't fit in. That's the O part, so it's been removed. And Google, you can't hardly find anything on Father Crespi on Google. I had to go to Bing to find anything. But there was several images of elephants in these artifacts found in America. And this is made of silver, and it was found in Crespi's collection too. And it's definitely Sumerian. And there's just a lot of things I can't find anymore. They're definitely scrubbing the web, because this elephant just doesn't fit their description of the IHS on the top of the pyramid. But the way I remembered it, they were all laying down on a shelf that appeared to be in the Central Ecuador Bank vault. Looked more like this with a IHS on the side of it. And the way I read this IHS, the line always says it's backwards and forwards, and it could be, S, and then EY, and then ES, and the vowel, the size, S-I's of, the size of, the size of. And so this eyes of and the size of on the top of the pyramid. This eyes of the size of. Now this doesn't work on all of them. You see here where it just turns the Russian here into this bracket in 1437 in Serapha Moset 34a is what it's reading here. It's not picking this up, and maybe on purpose. So this one's just titled Palace. You see it's in English, the virgin must be kept in custody. And in the Latin, the custody in the Virgo, custody in the virgin. And in the picture, it's Palace keeping the serpent away from the owl. It's like the owl is the virgin. And here again is Pallas and Bacchus, you can tell by his crown. It's called Wine Increases Wisdom, or the Venom Acuit Ingenuum. So I showed before where there's an owl on the serpent's tail that sits right under Virgo. So I guess the owl can also represent Virgo. You see here's Cupid standing in a port, in a gate. And you put this in a translator. Cupid voor de poort van een Thuin. And in the Dutch, it'll say Cupid at the gate of a Thuin. But if you put it in the Norwegian, it'll go ahead and interpret that as a garden. But it'll change this, for the gate of. And, if that's for, it should be F-O-R-E, for. So you pretty much tell that at the time this book was written, Dutch and Norwegian were the same language. And they've kind of drifted them into two different languages and changed meanings of different words. And then here with Cupid is a cooper. A cooper is somebody who puts these metal bands around a barrel, building these barrels from new. We'll spell that Cooper in English, but you see it interpret this one in Dutch and not in Norwegian. So that's a mixed language there. And here this says, and dead by the grave, a dead by a grave. Let's say the meaning of this is death cannot be shunned. And you see two owls here at the grave, and which is, O-W-L is the Hebrew word they say means eternity. And so what I learned from studying much of this, Cupid's in much of it with his wings and other flying things, the Dutch words would be gels, birds, or anything with wings. And you can see here, the windmill, and he lives in the movings. The word for spirit, pneumatic, the wind. And so they knew back then, that's where your term love is in the air come from. They knew all about pheromones. And this he lives in the movings, it's the spirit is in the wind. And so anything with wings that flew, it could read the spirits. Birds were gods in Egypt. And this one, it appears that he's passing the staff to Cupid. Cupid's catch it with two hands, he's passing it with one. And it says, the orator must yield unto love. And so that's an orator's staff. And you see that word's the same all the way through in the Latin, French, in similar, the rhetoric in the Spanish. And if we put that in translator in Norwegian, it'll say, the wounded orator hands over his staff to Cupid. And in the Dutch, the same, the injured orator. And so it's his staff, so that would be an orator's staff. And so I pull this off and put it in the translate, and it picks up as Cupid looks after his love. But if we take some of these words out, we know what Cupid means. And try it in Norwegian, it says sees love after the eyes. And in the Dutch, it says it looks after his love. But the interpretation they give that is her eyes is mine north. This isn't an interpretation, it's actually what the meaning is. Change some spaces. Sees his dear to the eyes, or sees his love after the eyes. And so they're consistent on this non-duchen. But this love turns into sweet when it's on a line by itself, and looks more like seasoned sweet after the eyes. And in this picture, You see, this is a compass here, and it has the arrow pointing here, and so it's pointing at the North Star up here. And in his hand, this is like a sextant or a quadrant, what they used to call it. And this old quadrant, it was divided in 7. And what that means is just looking at the quarters of the moon. You know, you have 7, 14, 21, 28 days of the moon before it goes around. And so this is the older quadrant of moon cycles. And he's looking at the North Star. Her eye is my north. You see it's north in several languages. You know, the Nord, and the Nort, Nord, and the Nord stern. And so Nord stern means the north behind, the stern. And this Latin, you know, the septrino, you know, the septum, the 7, or the separate. They'll say this means north of mine, my north. Septrino, the 7 was the north. So this is exactly the same word in several languages here. This Nord, N-O-R, the D is the TH, and the TH is the TE. You know, so Nord is N-O-R-T-H, and N-O-R-T-E is N-O-R-T-H. It's all the same letter. The tet could be read as a D. It's all the same, north. So if we take this Dutch out of here and put it here, you know, it's her eye is my north. If we translate it from the Norwegian, it's her eye is north of me. And this in the Latin, you know, his eye is my north now. And from the French, it's his eye is my north. And in the Italian, it's the fire eye is my north. In the Spanish, his eye is my north. And the only thing it picks up out of this German is this mine. I have to manually type that in. But you can see there where your word August comes from. It's a German word, A-U-G-I-S-T, 2 different words. And it means the Aug is my North Star. When you put them together, it comes out August. Or this may be a Y here. That may be reading thy Aug. And then ist, you know, is it. Ist. Thy Aug is it, my North Star. In English, a clipping of augmented, meaning to increase. Increase in number, amount, and strength. In Latvian, a form of augit, coming from the Greek auzanto, meaning to increase. From the Latin augio, meaning to increase. You know, in the summer, the sun goes up, it's increasing and it's rising. But if you put this in Danish, it says, Cupid looks his love in the eye. You know, key, to give up hand. And so the compass is looking at the North Star, and Cupid is looking at Agnes. Agnes meaning pure, holy. Coming from the yag, meaning to sacrifice, to worship. Also from the Vedic term, yaga, related to the Greek term azomi, to revere. You know, the divine fire, Agni. So in the time the Vedas was written, he was the guardian deity of the southeast direction. And he was seated on a ram. Its medieval pronunciation was the anus, like the anus. It's a Latinized form of the Greek agni, derived from agnos, meaning chaste. The name was later associated with the Latin Agnes, meaning lamb. And this was also the name of Edward Leedskalnin's Sweet 16. Her name was Agnes. And that would be the 16th letter, would be the I. To see, to know, to reveal. And it's also the letter of Cupid here, the arrow, in Sagittarius. So Edward Leedskalnin's place was all about astrology. And he had this scope set up on the North Star. And what it showed was, as we went around the sun, the North Star would go around this cross here. This would show the 4 seasons. Even though it was in the center, it would still move around, because as we were going around the sun, our position's moving. Our pole is still aimed at the same place, but it's at a place beyond the North Star. And so the North Star appears to move around with the seasons. This is the center, and all the stars are going to go around every 24 hours. But the North Star would stay in its place and slowly creep around the year. And for people who think this is nothing remarkable what he did, anybody can lift a stone with a tripod, this was just to break them loose. If you look at all the tripod he used, none of them are as tall as he stood the stones up. You're going to have to hang a chain on this tripod to hang your block on, and you're going to have to wrap a chain around your block. And so this block, the bottom of this block, is only going to get this high. And this isn't how he set these blocks. His books are all coded. And to the people that understood the code, they knew that admission was only 5 cents. It was just 10 cents for the people who didn't understand. And so here on this seal 476, Cupid has his arrow aimed at the vrister. Love is the mark. And Cupid shyet an no on vister. And in the Dutch, that's just a Cupid shoots after vrister. But in the Norwegian, Cupid shoots at a Freemason. And in the Danish, Cupid shoots at a Freemason. And so you have to look close at all these symbols to get the meaning. It shows a needle and a sun and a wind here. And it says it means always so. Semper, forever. Semper cosi, always so. Forever so. But if you look close, you see the lit side of the needle is over here with the spirit, the pneumatic, the wind. And the shadow is on the sunny side. It looked like it would be backwards. But what it's saying is the light is always coming from the spirit, not from the sun. Light is knowledge, and it comes from the spirit, not the sun. It's all coded and hidden in a Trojan horse, which means under the pretext of religion. Religion means and legion, the word, to reword it. The 2 main symbols of Freemason is the compass, a hand with a passer, a compass, meaning he that hath the secret hath all. The secret is the compass, is what that represents. And the winkle hack, the square. And square can mean true. You want to know if it's true, if it's horizontal and vertical, if it's 90 degrees. And then I seek but justice, justice, the judgment, the truth. And the secret truth is what that represents. The compass and square is the secret truth. And the secret truth was started number 1, the elephant, the omega, the great circle. And you can see in the Latin, in me spes omnis. Omni is the all. In me, and they say the spes is hope. In me hope all. And so back to the elephant and the lamb, this is the great circle. In the Russian, it's called the Nil. And Agnes, the North Star. The lamb and the elephant. Agnes and the great circle. And so this secret truth is the great circle. It's going to take 26,000 years for our North Pole to circle all the way around. But the lamb is this spot where our North Pole points out. That's Agnes, is the lamb. That was my sweet 16. The sweet eye. And when they first figured this out, it looks like, It's when Thuven, when the serpent's asshole was the lamb, was the North Star. It's now here at Polaris, but it was at Thuven back in the time of Gemini, Taurus, back in Genesis. And so this Thuven, this star Thuven, it interprets as is where you're from. The two, this is like you address a letter to, or coming through a tunnel is where this comes from. The th could be do. It's you of where you're from. And what it meant was all measurements were taken from the North Star. All the other stars were moving around, and this is Tuvan, and this is also Tuvan. It's where you take all your measurements from today. If there's no star there, you have to find other stars and figure it out and add and subtract from your point. But Thuvan means, the beginning point. Even in the Chinese, the do and the to are the same. The to translated as to from. An ancient letter meaning chart, D meaning through, Vav meaning connection, through the connection from, or T, the mark, and the chet to divide, the connection, the point where you make all your divisions from. Jupiter and Sagittarius, D-O, do, through the I. All your measurements are made due of, from Thuban, 36 degrees due of, or Thuvan. The mark of the great circle through Agnes, through Cupid's eye. And so Cupid doesn't necessarily mean love, but it's where your love is aimed at. Cupid is the aim. This is the T, the mark of Agnes, of the eye, of the great circle. The Egyptians were worshiping the same God with a passageway from the king's chamber straight toward the Lamb of God. So when you go to reading Edward Leedskalnin books, just know that somebody has edited them. But when he talks about the Sweet 16, Ed's Sweet 16, he's talking about the North Star. He's not talking about a 16-year-old girl. And this sign on the front of his magnetic current, just know that comes from Stradivarius. And it means various layers. It's written in alchemy and has various layers to the book. And so he wasn't trying to give all his knowledge to everybody, but he was sending huge hints. And this perpetual motion machine that works, you put a charge to it and it holds forever. And you can do this with 6 nuts and magnetize them until they're broken apart. What it means is, even after the current's turned off, the current is forever flowing. And you can click on this here and it'll bring you to a page that has his 3 books, and it'll teach you how to build this perpetual motion holder. And what it all had to do with anything is he was generating a current with this machine, and he was using it to change the frequency in stones. After he would break them loose, he would change the frequency and get them all lined up like the diamonds in a magnet. And that's where your word magnet comes from. Magan is the Hebrew word for the magician, and the et is the feminine. And it comes up most of the time as shields. Imagine, the magnets, imagines. And that's the shields. That's what shields the planets, is the magnetic forces. And in the Greek, the magan is the magician. And that's where the magicians were using the magnets. And that's why he calls what we call electrons, he called them magnets. And what he was showing here, he showed how he turned this handle And that electricity drawed everything together. You see all these chains, everything that should be hanging down from gravity, it all draw it up. And he talks about how the magnets are in everything. You know, the metals have more of it. In his tool collection, he had several of these old, what looked to be homemade, old-fashioned radio tuners. You know, like this. We used to make them a couple different ways. Some of them make two sides and slide it in the other, and some of them you just tune it with this wire across here. And you can see in this picture, you know, he's standing here looking up at the chains. Everybody's looking up in amaze, and he's looking underneath trying to figure out what happened. He just cranked that wheel and it drawed all that steel, those rear ends and weights. So it's been about 8 hours since I opened that package, and I haven't got a whole lot done since then. I got about 20 more pages open of stuff I want to share with you. And thanks again, Lucky Truth. And I highly recommend this strawberry candy here. It works in about 30 seconds. So in that next one, I'll go over some more of all of that and some other things I saved and a bunch of these Hebrew words I found while I was searching for. I found the Magan, meaning magician, in one spot. I found a bunch of funny stuff. And I'm going to go over some more of this book, some things that caught my attention. And read a couple lines in Hebrew. Some one-liners I found.
Don't forget. I won't forget.
Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.